and watchdogs, and no match for the spirit sentinels of Nigeria.
In the African cosmos, there is a belief in ghosts because Africans actually believe that life is a continuum. There's a strong link between the past, the present, and the future, which we call the living dead, the living and the unborn, and the interplay.
And like other countries, Nigeria has its share of ghost lore.
Stories about ghosts, about either ghosts of departed ancestors who come to watch over and protect the living, their loved ones, their property, and sometimes their farms.
But deceased ancestors don't always return to watch over their families. And when they do fail to appear, people find other ways to attract spirit protectors.
There's the tradition of people buying the services of ghosts and spirits to look after the property. And people go to the priests of the shrine to pay some money, and then they buy the powers of the spirits or their services and to look after their property in the farm. I've seen that myself.
Along with money, other items are required, including a clay pot and the dried fruit bunch of a palm tree. When the elements are prepared, the clay vessel is placed on the property to be protected.
And then in the daytime like this, you see a smoke coming from a pot. It's a smoke in the afternoon. In the night, it is fire. The smoke is always there every day. Whether it rains or shines, the smoke is there. The fire is there, whether it rains or shines, no rain puts it off. It means it is protected. This property is protected by ghosts and spirits. You don't, no thief, no burglar, whatever can interfere in those areas. You see, it's like beware of dogs, or beware of, or this property is protected by this security system. So when you see it, you know that that is what it means. That property is private property, don't interfere. It is protected by ghosts and spirits.
Francis Arwe is a Nigerian performer and storyteller. He and his group, the Nigerian Talking Drum Ensemble, relate their cultural legends in music, song, and dance.
The most important part of African music, or dance, or storytelling, or singing, is the messages they have for their community.
Frequently, these messages are about the lessons of raising children.
To us, the children are not just something you want to have for the sake of having them. They are our future investment. So they are our power. That is why any African will spend his entire or her entire time or whatever he or she has to make sure you raise your child well.
In a story called The Feast, a lesson of listening is taught. The tale begins with a woman, a powerful and very spiritual woman.
She also had one son, very, very strong son. His name was Aleju. The two of them loved and respected each other. And their love and their respect also extended to the entire community.
But sadly, the man's mother passed away, though she did not leave her son forever.
So one day, the mother came in a vision to Aleju. I say, Aleju, I was coming an invitation from big people to a big feast. Do not refuse to take the invitation, but when you get there, don't sit down anywhere and do not eat any food. Don't be afraid, because you're not alone. The mother also told him to go with his dog and a bone.
Just as the mother had predicted, the invitation came and Aleju gathered his friends and started out. He also took his dog and a bone.
As they stepped out of the house, the mother came, the ghost of the mother appeared.
Aleju did not recognize his mother's ghost, so she began to sing to him.
And in the song, he had his name, Aleju. He also had the one given to him by the mother. And he could eventually recognize that was the voice of his mom.
With his mother's advice in mind, Aleju continued on and soon arrived at his destination. It was an incredible palace. Aleju couldn't imagine how any harm could come to him in such a fine home.
The whole place was decorated with gold and silver. But he remembered the money given to him in the vision. So it brought out that bone and he threw the bone to the very seat prepared for him. So as soon as he threw the bone, the dog followed. And as soon as the dog stepped on the mat, whip, fell into a very big and deep hole.
The hole under the mat was intended for Aleju.
But because he followed the instruction and he was careful, he did not see. And that is what saved him. Because he listened to the mother, followed the instruction, he was saved from that death.
The concerned soul of Aleju's mother came back as a gentle spirit of song. But in our next ghost legend, the returning entity comes back as a markedly different creature. We've all heard of haunted houses. Well, coming up, we'll explore the legend of one unique phantom who prefers to take up residence not in people's homes, but in their very bodies. The ghosts of legend have countless reasons for returning from the other side. Some are here to set right an error or to finish a task. Others come back to reveal hidden treasure or to point out a murderer. For the most part, these ghosts work as solo acts, so to speak. But there are stories of other kinds of spirits who seem to function as part of a team.
One such is a story based in Jewish tradition that started to be bandied about somewhere around the 16th century, and it's called the Dybbuk. And a Dybbuk isn't a classic ghost. There are Jewish ghost stories where there's some kind of spirit that comes, but there aren't very many stories like that. Usually there are stories about this creature called a Dybbuk, and a Dybbuk is only recognized once it possesses someone or enters someone's body. So a Dybbuk isn't really the same as a normal ghost. It's not acting on its own, it needs someone's body. The basic story of a Dybbuk is this, that a Dybbuk is it was probably a Jewish person who did something not so good near the end of his or her life. And so when this person died, the person was not allowed to go to Gehenna, or the afterlife. Instead, they were hounded, usually by angels, and chased all over the place, and they weren't given any rest. Well, the only rest that the Dybbuk could find is in another person's body, or sometimes an animal's body. For example, a Dybbuk, there's a story about a Dybbuk making its way into a fish. It went into the fish because it was safe there from the angels who were trying to beat him. So he was in this fish, and then the fish was caught and taken to market, and a woman came to the market and bought the fish and brought it home. The woman had probably done something wrong. The Dybbuk usually would possess someone because the person had broken a taboo, like not believing in God, or a woman was sweeping the house on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, when she's not supposed to do any work, or she took the Lord's name in vain, something like that.
Having broken such a taboo, the unsuspecting woman prepared a meal with the possessed fish.
And she ate the fish, and the Dybbuk thus entered the woman, and the woman was possessed by this Dybbuk and began speaking with the man's voice, speaking with the Dybbuk's voice, and then the Dybbuk then had to be exorcised by a rabbi.
Exorcism rites involved calling upon God to remove the intruder and smoking the Dybbuk out.
They would have some kind of incense or some kind of substance. The possessed person would be inhaling this smoke, and the Dybbuk would presumably not like it, not like the smell, not like the exhortations the rabbis were bringing upon the Dybbuk, and would therefore seek to leave the body because it wasn't so comfortable there anymore.
The possessing entity could be drawn out through only 2 points on the body.
And the Dybbuk, for some reason, had to be gotten out by the little finger or by a toe. This is the way it would exit.
And once the exorcism was complete, a tiny drop of blood would appear at the exit site, which was the evidence that the Dybbuk had departed.
Sometimes there are historical accounts of